Welcome to In the Studio for another fantastic session. We've got three, four-wheel drive enthusiasts. One, local, Neil Swaysland. How are you, mate?
Pretty good.
Good on you. And Mathilde and Nick from Next Meridian Expedition. How are you?
Hi, super good.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Swayzie, we're going to have a discussion about Tassie because you've got an exciting video coming up, so we're going to have a chat about that soon. But first up, you two are on the trip that I think a lot of people would love to go on, a world tour. It's been 3 years. Tell us about the trip so far. Where have you been to?
We've actually been to 28 countries so far, 5 continents. So Europe, North America, South America, Antarctica, and now Australia. And we still have 2 to go, Asia and Africa.
What were you doing before you decided to go on this trip?
So we were living in between Paris and Brussels, so France and Belgium. Nick was in business and I was more working for international relations. But we met knowing we wanted to travel. Our first date was a road trip and we just decided to carry on, and we're doing the ultimate road trip now. So it's pretty cool. We're really happy of it.
Obviously, there was a ton of planning, and I know, but we haven't got time, I guess, to talk about everything. But when did you first decide, she's the one, he's the one, let's go?
One day we were in Croatia on a road trip, and we had to turn around to go back to Paris for work on our 2 weeks normal holidays. And we were both in a tent thinking, why don't we just keep going? What would it be like to just keep driving, go to Turkey, go all the way to Central Asia, and all the way down to, Indonesia and then Australia? How would that feel like? And so we started doing some research, and we noticed that it was less expensive than what we thought. Of course, you have to live out of a car, you have to cook yourself, you don't go camping, you don't go to restaurants, hotels. And we looked at the budget and we said, all right, well, how long will it take us to get the budget? 3 years later, we left.
We'll talk about the budget a little later on, because that's something that interests a lot of people. As Swayzie will attest, it's not cheap, and particularly since you're shipping your truck everywhere before you start. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But has it been a journey of growth for you on this particular trip?
We were both pretty well-traveled people before, but I think we've experienced a totally new way of traveling. It's no longer a 2 weeks, first day, last day type of thing. We're non-stop on the road. So there is an adjustment in terms of finding a rhythm, knowing what you actually like to do, not hitting just the touristy spots because someone told you to go. So there's about a relearning of how you discover a place and what, as an individual, you appreciate the most when you arrive in a new country. I think I've learned that I love traveling even more than I thought before. And we're still learning every day. And I think the more we do it, the more we have ideas of places to go. Some people were laughing. They were like, oh, you won't have anything to see after that trip. But it's the contrary. I just have so many more things I want to discover. So it's a growth in that way.
I think that's something you share with Neil, because Neil, you...
Yeah, there's always something to see around the next bend or over the next hill sort of things. Just keep going, enjoy it.
100%.
Very, very lucky. Yeah.
What's really stood out for you so far, and maybe something you haven't spoken about before?
I think it may sound a bit cheesy, but everywhere we've been, especially maybe in South America or Central America, there's a number of countries where we arrived where people had a lot of very negative stereotypes in terms of security, for example. Sometimes it's the countries that have the worst reputation where the people were actually the nicest. The people we met, they were always so welcoming. If you come up to them and you're like, oh, can you help me? I don't know where to sleep. I don't know where it's safe. That being in Australia or being in Argentina or being in Peru or in Honduras, there's someone who will be like, oh, sleep in front of my house, no worries, and here's the soup and let's talk.
There's definitely a few people that are just above and beyond. And there's actually one in Australia, in Geraldton, a family that helped us out for 2 weeks when we had an engine breakdown. And they hosted us, open arm, fed us, gave us a car, help us get all the contacts when we were in our most miserable moment and we didn't know what to do because our home was broken down. So those guys, it's memory for life. There was one guy as well in Guatemala who we were looking for a camp spot at night, and there's this guy on a scooter that comes around kind of looking around, and he had a gun actually on him. And in Guatemala, you're allowed to. And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to go ask him. I'm usually not worried about anything or people. And I was like, I was just gonna ask him if we can sleep up on top of that hill. Mathilde's like, no, don't do it. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna do it.
I mean, you had a gun.
And he was a pretty big, beefy guy. And so I asked him, and it ended up being a 3-day friendship because we spent our time with him working on his cattle, sleeping at his house, jumping in his pool, going out for dinner. Until today, we still speak in Spanish because we can speak Spanish. And it was a superb encounter. I mean, South America in general for me was astonishing. Australia, the same. When we got here, I mean, it's like in the movies. When you're in West Australia or the center of Australia, it's just like the movies. And we loved it.
No, I think it's funny because travelers, they always are wary on security everywhere they go. But I realized also on this trip that sometimes the locals find us threatening. You know, they don't know who are those two random people rocking on and camping here. And I remember in Bolivia, a good story. We camped in some small dunes not far from a village, and a man came up in the morning with his 3 little dogs and approached the car a bit wary, looking at us from afar. So I went to talk to him and I was like, hi, how are you? And he explained to me afterward that he was scared we were stealing llama in the region. Like, he thought we were here to steal his llama. And that's where I realized, maybe we need to do a better job at like introducing ourselves ahead of time, because they're actually sometimes a bit scared of us. We kind of clear it pretty easily and pretty fast after that, but usually, you're not necessarily...
It's a two-way thing.
It's a two-way thing.
You might get a couple of llamas in the back of the Defender.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
Or get a roof rack and put some. Yep.
How has the trip, Mathilde, you'd probably be the one to answer this first, but how's the trip changed you as a person?
Much less scared of the world. I would say that's the main thing. I'm much less scared of the world. I just feel that everywhere we go, it's not that scary. The world is not that big, and it's not as scary as everyone tries to make you believe. And it's just so much easier than everyone think to travel the world. Those are my big life lessons from those last 3 years.
For me, it would be people are good everywhere, and everyone has a story. Everybody. And if you want to do something on this planet, you can do it. You just have to put your mind to it. And so I've learned that, we got to Australia, shipping to Australia, everyone said you're never going to get your car in. It has to be biosecurity, like clean as new. We got in, we lapped it, everything went well. And now we're going to Asia, and everyone says you won't make it through, and we are. So if you just do it, don't let people pull you down. That's what I've noticed. Just do what you want to do, and as long as you're fair and respectful.
How's it changed you, Swayzie? Because you're a hard-nosed Aussie boy. How's it changed? You've softened, met a lot of people?
Yeah, I travelled around back in the 80s and 90s now, but there's people I met back in 84 that I'm still good friends with today that, I go and see them, they come up here and see me, and we go fishing or whatever and keeping regular contact. But yeah, it's just like Nick's saying, there's good people everywhere. And especially if they drive a Defender, that always helps.
Yeah.
But it's it's just get out there and see the place. It's just,
Just for the benefit of everyone, not for my own morbid curiosity, but how's it being financed?
Yeah, so we completely did it with savings. We bought the car with savings, and then we left with 2 years of let's say cash or savings. And as we went on the road, we started making videos, we started getting collaborations, subscriptions on Patreon, and that actually keeps us on the road now. To give you an idea, because you say it's not so cheap, it's not so cheap when you ship to a different continent. That's actually the most expensive thing. And the second thing would be fuel, and the third would be maintenance, because we keep track of all our expenses. But if you're staying on one continent, you could probably live off with 30,000 euros. So that's around 50k Australian per year for a couple and a vehicle. We're probably more around 60,000 Australian because we ship around.
So, Swayzie? How do you finance your bloody trips?
Well, just live off what money I've got nowadays. I'm retired. I gave up work 5 years ago, so I've had a couple of trips away. We've been in Tassie there a while back. Otherwise I used to save money and go on my annual leave like these guys. I just wish you could do it forever without having to work. 'Cause did you actually leave intending to do YouTube videos, or has it just sort of happened?
No, we said we wouldn't flick through 100,000 photos by the end of the trip. So we said, let's make videos. And so it was supposed to be for our own memories.
Yeah.
And it took off one day.
Yeah.
So we do receive a lot of messages on Instagram and on YouTube of people saying, thank you guys for pushing me to do more. And I'm going to go with my family, or I'm going individually, or I've just purchased a car. I've just, and this is exactly the type of thing that to us means a lot, because when we left on this trip, I asked Mathilde, so what's the purpose of this trip? Is it just for us to have fun, or does it also have a bigger meaning? And Mathilde told me, I want to get off the beaten path and see what's really out there. And for me, I said, I just want to show people that if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And I feel like both of our messages, without saying them, are being shown in actions. And so, yeah, it means a lot to us. And we're very happy that a lot of people have taken that step, because it's a hard step to take, to quit your job, to leave everything behind, and to start something that, sure, today is a lot more common, but it's still a big step.
Hey, where are you going next?
So now we're in Darwin because we're shipping our Land Rover Defender to East Timor. And tomorrow the car is going into a container, if all goes well. And in 3 weeks we pick it up in Asia. And then the road will lead us all the way through Southeast Asia, China to Central Asia in the first place. And then Middle East and Africa. But that's for a bit longer term, so we make our way slowly.
Yeah, we've seen the outfit of your vehicle and it's fantastic. But tell me, you replaced the donk 30,000 k's ago.
Yes, we did.
What happened? Because you've done 150 in the thing.
Yeah, so exactly when we didn't know that the injectors had to be changed. So anyways, in Geraldton, that's when it happened, and that's where that family in Geraldton hosted us.
Oh, good. That's bad.
Okay, great. Oh, that sucks. It's usually when everything goes to the worst that the most beautiful encounters come up. So he said, guys, use whatever you want. But behind their garage, behind their house, they actually have a full little apartment. Ta-da!
I sometimes wonder how we can be so lucky. Like, is it a normal thing? Is it happening for everyone, or is it just us?
You've got your original power pack in yours, haven't you?
Yeah, my car's all original.
How many Ks does it have?
340.
Beautiful.
Yeah, 340,000.
He hasn't shaved since he started.
I know. He's got his character.
The Defenders need a lot of preventative maintenance. It's like anything. It's mechanical, it's electrical. You've got to keep on top of it.
And you do learn on the way. You tell me the Madigan line, your alternator got clogged up.
Yeah, I had to do I think it was 1,000 kilometre round trip to go and get an alternator and then catch up with me mates and to get back out there. But I carry a spare alternator nowadays, but it's just part of the learning curve, and it's all part of the story of doing what you want to do.
Tell us about the inspiration and then what you found in Tasmania, because I find the place fascinating. It's like Lord of the Rings territory.
Because I grew up in Melbourne, I always hated the cold and always wanted to head north to get to the warmth. So Tassie sort of got left, and I thought towards the point where I was around retirement, I thought I'll drive down there and have a few weeks. I ended up having 5 weeks down there, but it's a magnificent place, completely different to the rest of the country, as you guys have just found out. But it's what gets me is you can look at the maps of down there where the roads are, and it shows a straight road. There's no such thing as a straight road in Tassie. They're windy, they're up and down. There's just so much to see down there. I had 5 weeks. I would like to have 3 months down there, because there was just so much to see once you get off on all those, like the logging tracks up in the mountains, and just magnificent. And that area where you guys were the other week at that Jacob's Ladder, I mean, that's just amazing country. And
beautiful place.
And the plateau is
stunning. Yeah, right up the top there. And
Yeah.
yeah, fantastic place.
It's probably more striking for the Australians, Tasmania as a distinct environment, than for us coming from Europe, because we have more mountains, we have more forests. Yeah. So for us, when we arrive in a place like Darwin, everything is extraordinary. You guys have like those giant crocodiles, you have amazing birds that sing so loud at night. We don't have that back home in Central Europe. And so I think for me, at least, I love Tassie, but Northern Territory stands out so much more because everything is new for me. I have never seen some place like that.
Now, you've mentioned before about going to Asia, through Asia. Now, that's next leg of your trip, maybe through the Middle East and down to Africa. Mm-hmm. But what do you plan on doing when you're all done?
We've already thought about many things. We haven't picked one. We'll see, because that's probably in 2 years and a half that we'll finish this trip. But I think kids and do the same thing with a bigger vehicle, maybe a Defender 150 custom built to much longer, or a bigger truck, and then do it again with the kids until maybe they're 10 years old, and then we'll see what happens. But that's the idea. And we're thinking of challenges, maybe go sailing for 3 months, or maybe go motorbiking, a challenge from Alaska all the way down to Patagonia or something like that. We'll figure something out. But I don't think we could stop. And if we do stop, it'll be hard, I think, coming back to a routine job. Nothing against it. It's just now that we've tasted this side, it's hard to come back. If there's anybody out there that really wants to do something in life, whatever it may be, just think about it and do it, because you only got one life and it goes by really fast. And true happiness is by following that dream, because we were happy in our jobs. We didn't run away from anything, but this trip made our happiness so much higher. But you gotta put a deadline of when you're gonna do it. And if you have to quit your job, put a deadline to that too, and do it.
I know what you can do when you get back. Life coach.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You've said that
tell them
before.
all the time.
I've said that before. Yeah. And Swayzie, any plans on retiring, mate?
No, I might do another trip next year to see what happens. And it's, I think, like Nick was saying, once you've travelled for long term, not just the annual leave holiday, it just gets in your blood from when you start doing it. I mean, I've been doing it for 40 years, and it's just, you still want to do it, but there's still always something else to go and see. And
I think the grass is always greener on the other side, because you think our trip is really cool, but we haven't done half of the extreme stuff you've done, just because we have a big trip, so we need to preserve the car.
And it's your house, so you got to look after it.
Mathilde, Nick, thank you for coming in. Good luck with the rest of the trip. Good luck getting to Timor. And thank you too, Swayzie. Yep. He's a local legend, this fella.
He really is.
Nice to finally meet these two after watching them for probably 18 months on YouTube, and it's been good.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been really great. Yeah, we loved it.
Good.